Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. Welcome back. I'm hyped up, as you can tell. I got the Fantasy Daily shirt. I got the Fantasy Daily mug. I got notes. I got stats. I got season projections on a different screen behind me. I got a different setup going on. I got all kinds of stuff going on over here, everybody. Shaking the table. Don't have my camera set up the way I want to yet, but that's okay because we are doing a lot over here, stats-wise, the important stuff. And I'm excited to get into it with you guys this morning here. Obviously, week one is almost in the books. It is Monday, September 13th, so all that week one fun just happened, and all we have tonight is Baltimore and Las Vegas. Keeping your eyes out if you got Josh Jacobs. Maybe you got to see if you can trade for Tyson Williams, see if you can go out there and, I don't know. If you're looking at the waiver wire and you got Josh Jacobs problems tonight, you're probably looking at Peyton Barber. Not good, because Kenyon Drake probably got drafted, as the 1A, 1B kind of guy. So if you didn't get him, you're probably SOL when it comes to getting the backup, and you're going to get stuck with Peyton Barber. So I would say if you are the Josh Jacobs owner, keep an eye out for that. If you need him tonight, that hurts. Hopefully he was in your flex spot. If he was not in your flex spot and he's in your running back spot, then you are in trouble, and you might have to go try to trade for Tyson Williams, which that person probably has him in their starting spot too. So good luck with that. But anyway, welcome in, guys. It is Fantasy Daily. I'm back. I know I've been kind of sporadic with this. I got a little bit of free time, so I want to make sure I jumped in here. And I'm probably going to space my shows out a little bit more. That way, when I have the opportunity to jump in, do something I can. And they're not going to be full half-hour-long shows. I'm going to be able to scream through some stuff, condense all my stats, condense all my shows, condense all my points, and bring it to you, because nobody wants to see this ugly face just talk all day about stats and stuff. I'm the only one who wants to see stats and stuff all goddamn day. You guys want to just hear the stats. What do I do? Who do I put in my lineup? How do I win? How do I make fun of my friends? This is how you do it. Thanks for joining me. So let's get right into it, guys. It was a fun weekend of football. There's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of implications that come in with who did what and what happened on what. So with that, we want to get right into basically what you're going to be able to replace, get off the waiver, stuff like that. So this is mostly going to be the waiver show. So let me first go into it. And I got my stuff on paper today because I want to make sure that I'm in line here. I got some stuff on here, but I want to make sure I got my stuff on paper so I can play with it as I go. I like writing. I don't know why. I like writing. I like doing this. Plus I bought Ticonderogas, so I got to use them. Anyway. So going through the injuries real quick, the biggest one for me, I would say, is Fitzpatrick. He's out for a long time. He has a big hip injury, a serious hip injury. And if Fitzpatrick's out, I'm basically, tempering my expectations on that whole team except for Terry McLaurin. When it comes to Antonio Gibson, I'm an absolute stan. I love Antonio Gibson, but it's hard for me to not knock down Antonio Gibson, even in my mind. And I love Antonio Gibson. I have him in my top 10. He's way too high in my rankings, and I know that, but I don't care because I think he is just one of the most talented people. But I am worried about Antonio Gibson going forward, Curtis Samuel going forward, Logan Thomas going forward, basically everybody except for Terry McLaurin. I wouldn't say go out and trade Antonio Gibson. That's not what I'm saying. But I mean, temper your expectations that he may not be that top 10 guy that you were hoping for. And if he's your number one, you might need to go grab something else if you're not, kind of stacked at the running back position and he's running as your one. You might need to go get something to complement that. Like me right now in my Dynasty League, I have Antonio Gibson and Darrell Henderson. That, to me, is kind of a weak combination. I need to go look for something more powerful. Especially, I was confident going into the year, but once Fitzpatrick got knocked out, now I'm a little bit worried about the Gibson. So that's where I stand on that. Raheem Mostert going down is a big thing, and we don't know how long Raheem Mostert's out, but this is kind of a thing in San Francisco where people just keep getting hurt, and it seems like that constant rotation of Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson getting hurt is, it's constant. So I do think that there is a running back that you're going to want in San Francisco now. Yesterday when Raheem Mostert went down, I was like, that's it. Trey Sermon's coming in. This is going to be it. Trey Sermon wasn't even involved. So all this Trey Sermon hype and everything, it went over to somebody else, and we'll talk about that soon. Jerry Jeudy is out for 6 to 8 weeks, so that is a big bummer because that's a high ankle sprain, and that's not easy to come back from. So we remember high ankle sprains. It kept, Devontae Adams out for like 4 to 5 weeks one year, and he came back and he popped off. So hopefully Jerry Jeudy can do the same thing, but historically the hip injury, the high ankle sprains are the bad ones. The low ankle sprains are pretty bad too, but high ankle sprains are pretty bad. So 6 to 8 weeks for Jerry Jeudy. fire up your Cortland Suttons. If we want to talk about the guys behind them too, I would probably go KJ Hamler. He seemed over Tim Patrick. KJ Hamler just seemed more explosive. The targets and the yards and everything like that, the opportunities, when Bridgewater was looking for them was kind of the same. I feel like KJ Hamler was more looked at when it was time for big plays. So I was kind of leaning more towards KJ Hamler over Tim Patrick, but it's up to you really where you want to go in that one, because it really is going to be like a toss of the coin. A couple other things. David Montgomery left the game. He came back. Higgins went out, but he came back. OBJ was a surprise out. I was very surprised. I don't know if this was, kind of extended throughout the weekend, but it was kind of a surprise out for me. If you have Odell Beckham, this is the roller coaster that he takes you on every single year. So it's difficult to, know when Odell Beckham's going to pop off. It's difficult to know when you want to start him and don't want to start him. So, if you drafted him, you kind of have to just go along for the ride unless somebody else is going to pay you for it, which is probably not going to happen. So Rashad Penny also went out with in the Seattle game. He went out for calf tightness, but he should be back next week. So don't really matter because Chris Carson's the guy over there. But anyway, so there's a quick look at the injuries and everything, and then let's jump right into waivers. Like I said, I don't want to keep this dragged out like I did before. I kind of want to run through stuff. That way I can give more shows, less, more condensed points, make it a little bit easier to digest for everybody here because nobody got time for this. Only I got time for this. So going right into the easier ones, it's probably the tight end bracket. Obviously, we have one more game tonight, but this is based on everything that I saw yesterday, everything that I was thinking about yesterday. But Dalton Schultz from the Cowboys, he's probably going to be one of the tight end pickups of the week because tight end, is completely drained everywhere else. Basically, everybody usually stashes 2 tight ends if they don't get one of the all-stars. So it kind of dries up the tight end pool pretty quick. So I want to say if Tyler Higbee is out there, you got to go get Tyler Higbee. He looked really, good. He looked like he was the guy that wanted to be, or he was the guy that Stafford wanted to go to. As far as tight end goes, he was the one who was out there most. So I would say go take a look at him. But Dalton Schultz is probably the guy who's definitely unowned that you could definitely throw in there as a flex option or a tight end streamer throughout the year, where he was one of those people you could probably pick up for a good game, drop him the next week to pick up somebody else. And if somebody else takes him, it's not a huge deal, but he'll be out there. The next one is David Njoku. He was clearly involved for big plays in Cleveland. And that's what I looked at where, when it came to a play that needed to happen or something was, a necessity in that, moment, Baker was looking for Njoku. So it was good to see, Njoku actually get in some time there. I was surprised to not see, Austin Hooper involved as much as I thought it was going to be. But it's nice to see Njoku actually, kind of show up. He went 3 for 5, 76 yards, but in my notes I put here, clear number 1. He was a big play guy there. So moving over to wide receiver, I have a lot on this list, and I feel like I'm going to rapid fire a lot of the ones at the end just to make it easier. But my 2 main wide receivers that I'm looking at right now are Mike Williams and DJ Shark, because these are guys that are really unowned in a lot of leagues. If you're in a 12-man league that's kind of a little bit savvier, I think Mike Williams is more unowned than DJ Shark is. Mike Williams is more owned than DJ Shark is, so you probably have to get the latter in DJ Shark. But if Mike Williams is unowned in your league, he's on the waiver wire, I think he's an absolute must-add. And if you're stacked at wide receiver, maybe it's not a must-add for you. Don't destroy your bench and your depth in order to get Mike Williams. But I think Mike Williams is a wide receiver 3 flex play for the rest of the season after that game. He had 12 targets. He caught 8 of them for 82 yards and a touchdown. So in Justin Herbert's offense, this is 1A, 1B when it comes to Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen had 13 or 14 targets. Mike Williams had 12. So this is the year that we've been waiting for Mike Williams for God knows how long, 2-3 years. If you're been following Mike Williams as long as the other guys have in fantasy, we've been waiting for this breakout. So I think this is it for Mike Williams. And even if it's not, I'm taking the chance and I'm getting him on my roster. Because I do think he's that good. He could break out and be an absolute, unstoppable wide receiver 1/2 some weeks. So I think taking the bet on him is a safe bet, and he's an absolute must-add for me. He might even be my waiver 1 when it comes to, picking up anybody because he's that, dominant right now, and he's going to be dominant, I think. So Mike Williams is my number 1. DJ Shark is number 2 because I think DJ Shark just emerged as the wide receiver that you can go out and get for Jacksonville. I think Marvin Jones would still be the wide receiver one in my book. I mean, the stats don't really show it. I think the stats leaned more towards DJ Shark yesterday. He had 12 targets, but only 3 catches. But I still think Marvin Jones is the more experienced, the better, blah, 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 blah. I just think Marvin Jones is easily the most talented wide receiver on that team. But I think DJ Shark absolutely needs a look after getting 12 targets from Trevor Lawrence. He clearly wants to go to DJ Shark more. And even at the 3 catches, DJ Shark had 88 yards and a touchdown. So I think, you can go out and get LaVisca. He was 7 for 8, 50 yards. He's going to be a great flex play. He's going to be a great option for you guys to pick up and drop onto the waiver wire, pick up somebody else. I think he'll be like that all year. But I wouldn't mind having DJ Shark because Marvin Jones is mostly, owned in league. So if you have Marvin Jones on your waiver wire, he's, to me, he's a really good ad as well. He went 5 for 9, 77 yards and a touchdown. So it's a 1A, 1B with Marvin Jones and DJ Shark. I just think Marvin Jones is going to carry the consistency a little bit more. Besides them, I think Zach Pascal needs a good look. I'd probably put him third in the rankings as far as who I'm going to pick up on waiver wire. Zach Pascal went 4 for 5, 43 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he looks to be the number one in that offense. He looks to be the guy that Carson Wentz is going to look for in the red zone and the guy he was going to look for when he needs that relief play. So looking all over the stats, not many people in Indy did well yesterday. Even Jonathan Taylor, Nyheim Hines were sharing a lot of work. Nyheim Hines is clearly the passing down back. So I think Indy's kind of all over the place. You're not going to love it every single week, but I think when you see the game and you watch the game and how it develops, Zach Pascal was clearly the guy that Carson Wentz wanted to go to when he needed it. So that's kind of really what I'm looking for in week 1 is, who's the security blanket? Who's going to give me the 12 targets a game? Because if we're playing PPR. If you guys are playing standard, there's not much of this that's going to apply to you unless we're talking touchdowns. But PPR is king when it comes to fantasy football. And these guys clearly are showing the volume here. Excuse me. A little product placement. Anyway, so that covers Marvin Jones, DJ Shark, LaVisca Chenault, Zach Pascal, Mike Williams. A couple other names in there that I want you guys to take a look out for. Sterling Shepard, he went undrafted in a lot of leagues. I'm also interested in Christian Kirk and KJ Osborne. KJ Osborne is the wide receiver 3 in Minnesota, but he went 7 for 9, 76 yards and was surprisingly involved. So you might have a Pittsburgh situation here in Minnesota this year where all 3 wide receivers are heavy involved. So keep an eye out for KJ Osborne. And then also Christian Kirk went 5 for 5, 70 yards and 2 touchdowns. I know that he was one of the people in leagues that people were kind of, if they were a fan of Christian Kirk in years past, they were kind of grabbing up on him. So a lot of leagues, he's, not rostered. I mean, he is rostered. So if he's not rostered, definitely take a look at him. I think he needs to be owned as well, but I put him at the bottom of the list because I feel like a lot of, leagues have him rostered already. So keep an eye out for Christian Kirk, Mike Williams, and Marvin Jones. Those are my top 3, DJ Shark, and then Zach Pascal for those guys. Now, the more important ones, and also throw Van Jefferson in there. I put him in there later because he seems to be like one of those guys that you have to get involved. He seems to be like one of those players where now that you have Stafford and you're throwing all the time, you got to get this guy involved because, man, is he good. That one play, if you haven't seen the Rams highlights from that game and Van Jefferson's touchdown, go look at that because that was a clean route. Going over to running backs now. I think the number one that we need to talk about is Elijah Mitchell because that's the one from San Francisco who got the start right after Raheem Mostert went down. So I was assuming it was going to be Trey Sermon, and even if not that, it was going to be Jermichael Hasty, and it wasn't either one of them. It was Elijah Mitchell who immediately got 19 carries. He took it for 104 yards and the touchdown, so he's going to be the number one replacement, I think. So I think when it comes to running back, if you're hurting and, you didn't get on the Tyson Williams, you didn't get on, any of the guys who fell down and you got to pick up their replacements, I think Elijah Mitchell is going to be that guy that you need. Number 2 behind that, I want to say Jamal Williams because I think that if you go back and you look at the stats yesterday from the Indianapolis game, between DeAndre Swift and Elijah Mitchell, I think it was like 20 targets between the two. I think DeAndre got 11 and Jamal got 9. Yeah, he had 9 targets for 8 catches and 56 yards. So that's a 1A, 1B over there. But Jared Goff is going to be dumping off a ton of passes to running backs this year. So I think DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams both need to be rostered, especially in deeper leagues, because they're a great person that you can put in on a bye week, or if you're hurting on injury and he carries the upside of catching, 6 passes a game for, 50 yards, there's 11 points. You're good. You're good to go. So moving on, Mark Ingram, he had 28 carries. I'm not a huge fan of Mark Ingram, but 28 carries you really can't ignore. I like, volume. Volume is king in everything that we do here. So when you see Mark Ingram getting 28 carries, yeah, I'm going to take a shot at that. And then last but not least is Nyheim Hines. We want to talk about Nyheim Hines because he seemed to be the passing down back. They don't want to give Jonathan Taylor that passing down back role. So he's going to be, he's going to be a beast. He's Jonathan Taylor. But when it comes to actually passing the ball on those certain plays, they know that they want to put Nyheim Hines in there. They want to get him involved. They feel like he can move the ball up the field, get it closer to the end zone where Jonathan Taylor could punch it in. So Nyheim Hines is going to be very good this year. I think you need to keep him on your roster as well. And that's it for my early waiver show. There's another game going on tonight. I got a lot of other points that I'm going to be chopping up, and maybe you'll see me again today, guys. But that's it for now for the waivers. Good luck. If you got any questions, hit me up. I got you. See ya.